Good morning, Boker Tov. Boker Or. I'm so glad that you could join me for our daily meditation every morning between Tuesday and Friday at 9:30 a.m. Well, there's something I want to discuss with you today that might be useful to you. I hope it is. I know it's useful to me. And it is simply the recognition that so much around us is transitory. So much within us is transitory. There are three ways that we perceive the world. Oh, actually, a fourth I'm going to introduce. Let's talk about the three ways, the three most common ways. One is through our body, through our sensory perception. We feel things in our bodies. We smell things. We taste things. We hear things. We see things. The other way that we encounter or perceive reality is through our emotions. We feel anxious or happy. We feel contented or restful. We experience fear or joy. That's another way that we encounter the world, that we perceive what's happening around us. The third way is through our thoughts. We perceive what's happening, or we try to understand what is happening to us through our minds, through trying to figure out what's going on, putting things into categories, judging things, looking for past experiences that are similar to what we might be experiencing emotionally or physically at this moment. So now none of these three ways of encountering or perceiving the world are permanent. Sensations come and go in our body. Sensations come and go in our emotional life. And thoughts come and go in and out of our minds. And these three ways of dealing with the world are very interconnected, and they can affect one another. For example, if you are feeling a certain discomfort in your body, that will trigger emotions, and in turn, those emotions that are triggered from a physical sensation might set off a chain of thoughts in your mind. If you're uncomfortable, if you are in pain or you are experiencing discomfort, well, that's going to affect your mood, and your mood will trigger all sorts of thoughts. Why is this happening? What did I do that was wrong? Why is this happening to me? And will this always be? Will this be a permanent kind of thing? Oh my goodness! And sometimes you have a transitory thought. Thoughts come and go in our minds all of the time. You have a thought that it might not be positive, but you latch onto it. You have a thought. You think about something that happened in the past, and all of a sudden you're feeling an emotional reaction to that thought. you feel a reaction. You feel a reaction to it. Maybe it's in the past, and it's not happening right now, but you will have an emotional response to that, and sometimes the emotional response will be manifested in your body, in your physicality. Sometimes, and I wouldn't say sometimes, all of the time, we have waves of emotions. Have you ever had a moment of anxiety or being blue, feeling a little bit depressed, a little bit down, and there's no reason for it particularly? Emotions come and go. And so what do you do? Let's just say you're feeling anxious. You're feeling anxious. And again, you can just wake up in the morning, or you can just have and you can be feeling anxious when you wake up in the morning and you're not sure why, or you can just feel anxious suddenly during the middle of the day for no reason at all. It's just there is a kind of a wave of emotions that we bounce along. But what do? If you're anxious, you try and figure out why. Why am I anxious? Who's out to get me? What about what's happening in my finances? What about my health? What about my relationships? And you begin to find reasons why you are anxious. Now, there's no reason for you to be anxious. It's just a feeling that has come, and it'll go away. But you latch on to it with your mind. You're looking for reasons. You're looking for solutions. And of course, this is all for naught, because there might not be any particular reason why you're feeling anxious. And of course, you will magnify that sense of anxiety with your thoughts. And that, in turn, can be manifested in your body. You begin to feel it physically. So your emotions, your physicality, and your mind affect each other, and in very real ways. And so what's the fourth alternative? Now, that's where meditation comes in. That's where mindfulness comes in. There is a fourth way of dealing with reality, and that is to observe. To observe, but not to be too attached to momentary, transient thoughts, feelings, and physical sensations. There seems to be the brain is very, very complex, but the mind seems to have two ways of dealing with the world. One of them we overemphasize, and that is the analytical problem-solving part of our brain, which is very useful. There's no question. It's very, very useful. And when we're solving a math problem, or we are fixing something in our house, and we have to analyze stuff. But there is also another part of our brain that is really underused, and that's the part that we tap into in mindfulness training and in meditation, and that's the part of the brain that observes. And it watches, and it's very constant. It doesn't change from moment to moment. It just watches, and from a spiritual point of view, that is about as close to the human spirit as you can get. The mind, the body, your emotions, well, they're all very important, and they're all very useful in their own way, but they are so subject to momentary and transient, temporary situations, that it's so useful to once in a while to go into that observing part of the brain that will notice thoughts rising and falling, that will notice physical sensations that are momentary, that will notice but not necessarily try to explain an emotional experience. It just sees things, experiences them, owns them without getting too involved. So let's for the next 10 minutes or so, and I'm going to give us some music for a background to do this. Let us go into that observing part of our mind. Find yourself in a comfortable place where you're unlikely to be disturbed for the next 10 minutes or so. And as the sound of the bell fades into the cosmos, allow yourself the freedom to enter into a meditative state. A meditative state that allows us to be totally aware of what's happening around us, totally aware and yet not judgmental in the least, knowing that sometimes we just have to experience what's happening without analyzing, not seeing the world, not seeing life as a problem to be solved, but as a phenomenon to be observed and to be lived. Notice what's happening in your body. Observe your breathing. Notice how your rib cage expands and contracts. Notice a gentle rising and falling of your shoulders with each breath. Just survey what's going on in your body, where you're comfortable, where you're not so comfortable, but without judgment. without trying to solve anything right now. Just observe what's going on. And observe what's happening with your emotions without explaining, without solving anything, without judging anything. But what are you feeling this morning emotionally? Feelings come and feelings go, like waves that arise from the sea and fall away back into the sea with no particular reason. Are you feeling calm this morning? Are you feeling joy? Are you feeling a little down or fearful? Whatever you're feeling, it's fleeting. It's not permanent. So you live in that emotion, you experience it, you acknowledge it without explaining, without solving, without comparing it to anything else, and you let it go. And you observe what's going on in your mind. What thoughts randomly come into your mind? Thoughts that are not anchored in the present, but usually thoughts that are anchored in the past, or thoughts about the future. How we compare things and categorize things and judge things and explain things that are not necessarily explainable or solvable. They just are. As the sound of the bell fades into the cosmos, you allow yourself to gently come out of your meditation, calm and clear, comfortable, with energy, with knowledge of something deeper, the depth of the soul that has the ability to see, to experience this present moment for what it is. So perhaps you will tap into this observing place in your mind later on today at some time, and maybe this will be useful to you in the future. Open your eyes slowly. Adjust to the light. Stretch a little bit. Very good. So, I hope you have a good day. I hope you're trying to get your vaccination if you are in one of those groups that qualify for getting it. That's a good thing to do. In the meantime, be careful, look after yourselves. And so, Boker Tov to you, Boker Or, and remember to smile, and remember to bring a smile to the face of at least one other person today. See you soon.